Stampers. My name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. Well, I finally have my November paper pumpkin done. I'm still playing catch up, and I did 5 cards for you. This was a very interesting kit given that it was to make treat boxes, and I ended up, like I said, making 5 cards, and I made them all slimline cards because the graphics for the pieces that you were given for this kit were so large that you had to chop them up pretty seriously to get them on a standard size card. So I ended up making several slimline cards for you. So let's just get started. Okay, so this is the paper pumpkin for November. It's called Gifts Galore November 2021, and the kit is meant to make up these treat boxes. And this one has a front and a back that are presents, and snowman, and then one that's a Christmas tree. The interesting thing about this then is you got graphics, 2 of each for 3 boxes. So 2, 4, 6 of each of these elements. And so, you know, my thought process on this is always how to make more out of the material that they give you and how to use it differently to make full-size cards at the very least. So I did do that. Now you got a Flirty Flamingo spot this time. You got some twine and some cute little paper clips and a couple of dimensionals. And then these treat bags with the snowflake design on them. You got the pieces for the back of the images that made the little box that your treat bag could sit inside. Then you got this graphic piece, which is the stack of presents, and then the Christmas tree, and then the snowman. So that's what you had to work with here. And they showed an alternative, which was, let's see if I can see here on the back. I think it was like a, yeah, so this one made kind of a little garland that had the images attached to it. And they made a Christmas tree card and made something over here with the stack of presents. And so let me show you what I did with my kit. I ended up having quite a bit of fun. I was a little stymied when I first opened the box and saw these giant images. But let me start with this one. And so what I did was I put this on a 9-inch by 8, scored and folded at 4 inches. Base, all of my bases are basic white. And I took the Christmas tree image and I just made a kind of a wiggly cut here and then another one down here, just to pull the Christmas tree apart. This card front is pretty big. This is still fits in a standard number 10 envelope. And then I took some of that twine and added it to the Christmas tree topper. And then I used some Flirty Flamingo strip here and a Poppy Parade. The colors on this were Poppy Parade, Old Olive, Evening Evergreen, the Flirty Flamingo, and is it Pool Party? I think it is Pool Party. So looking for some pattern for the back of this, I used this piece from Whimsey and Wonder. the designer series paper, because it comes in a 12 by 12, I could cut it to whatever size I wanted. So this layering piece here is 8 3/4 by 3 3/4. And then this piece is 1 inch wide and 8 3/4. And then this piece of Flirty Flamingo is a 1/2 inch by 8 3/4. And on the inside, I put a piece of that designer series paper and then repeated the pattern of the colors. And I used the Poppy Parade and the Flirty Flamingo to do my stamping. Now, let me share with you this stamp set. Stamp set has this cute little bow. It's got Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, Oh What Fun, a to from, these little snowflake splatters, and something that could be a present. And you can see what I did with my splatters. Actually, I ended up putting these down here because I dropped my stamp and made kind of a mark, so then I had to finish putting it in. So that is my card number 1 that I used with this. And I think I used in the making of these cards everything except the present. And there was so much material that I really didn't need to. So next I have this one. And what I did was I took the stack of presents and I cut them all apart. And so I went around the bow and I cut this one out, cut this, cut this, cut this. And so on the front of my card, this is also from Whimsey and Wonder. And it's not Evening Evergreen. It is Mossy Meadow, but I thought it kind of worked with this. And I was looking for something with a simple pattern on it to add to the background. So I just stacked all of my presents here, kind of going cattywampus. And then I stamped my Merry Christmas. Now you'll notice my Merry Christmas and this Merry Christmas are stacked, and in this set it's a long set. And what I did was I just cut my Merry Christmas in half, because that way I can use it this way by putting the two pieces together and having a long one. And in this case I wanted ones that were stacked, so I put my Merry over my Christmas. You can do the same thing with Happy Holidays, but in this case I did not do that. And then on the inside, and I just fussy cut around the Merry. I used the Oh What Fun, and then the presents that are left here, these over here, I left stacked that way and then added them to the inside of the card with the strip and the Oh What Fun. So that is my card number 2. Then I used just the stamp set, and what I did was I took the Merry Christmas cut apart, the Happy Holidays together, the two from Oh What Fun, and the bow, and I set them up on my Stamparatus. And then I used this same background DSP and had the card go this way. This one is, I think, 8 by 8. The Tower of Trees is 8 by 9. And this one is 8 1/4 by 8. Since I didn't have a lot of things to stamp, I went ahead and did that in the Poppy Parade, and then added the snowflakes, and then these sequins from the Artistry Blooms, because they kind of pick up that blue. On the inside, I just added a thin strip to one side and a thicker strip to the other. You could put another sentiment on the inside, but very simple, easily repeatable. If you set this up on your Stamparatus, you could stamp and make a ton of these, and you could use a different kind of paper on the back and get things that were very interesting, or you could stamp each one in a different color, but Stamparatus gives you some flexibility there that you can do, and that is my card number 3. Then you know how I like to stretch what they give you. This one is half a tree. So this one is 8 1/4 by 8, scored at 4. And I took some of the material for making for the treat bags here, and I cut it apart. And this ended up, I wrapped it around this piece of Pool Party. And the reason I started making these a little bit smaller, because this is one of the first ones I did. And in order to cut that apart on the bottom, let me grab one that isn't cut apart. It's sealed down here at the bottom. And when you get as close as you can and take that piece off to open this up, then this piece is roughly 8 inches. So I made this card 8 1/4 so that I could use this to cover some panels. So that's what I did. And where that seam was, I used some of our metallic silver ribbon, and I adhered this material on the back side of this card on both sides, and it looks like it needs a little bit more glue. And then I took the Christmas tree and I cut it in half. Now, if you made this design, you could get twice as many cards out of it because you're only using half of a Christmas tree. And you might want to set it up then the other one on the other side and make the presents go a different way. But these are all cut apart as well. And then it said it was evening evergreen, so I just grabbed some evening evergreen and tied a little knot bow there and added a few rhinestones. Did my Merry Christmas. I didn't show you, but the kit comes with these tags, tags like this one, and a round tag, and I didn't use any of the round tags. So I love the look of this on the back, and I'm happy with the way it came out. And then on the inside, I stamped the Oh What Fun and then just put bows down the side and picked up the blue here and did the white on the inside. And that is my card number 4. Now, this is the one that I kind of went a little nuts on. This is my card number 5, and it uses the snowman. And if you take a look at the snowman as they present it to you, he doesn't have a hat, and he's quite a bit fatter. I put him on a diet. And I trimmed down around the scarf a little bit so that I could take some of his girth off, because I wanted most of him to be on the card. And you can see here how much would have been off the card, and I got it all to fit on there. So I trimmed this off, but I wanted most of his head on there and that kind of thing. And I made this little hat, and I thought I would show you making the hat. So I freehanded my first one, but knowing that everybody's not comfortable with that, I went ahead and put some pieces in here so that I could show you how to make the hat. So I have a piece of white scrap that I'm going to show you. Now, this one is tied together, and it's both the green and the red twine, and it opens up this way, and Santa opens here, this opens here. It says Merry Christmas, and then it's rife with those snowflakes. Now, what I didn't do on this one, so I'm going to show you my big boo-boo, is I needed to cut out, once I had this all assembled, you need to cut out, run a pencil mark around all of this so you can put that white piece on the back, or you could do it out of the Pool Party, either way, and put it on the back so you can't see any of the stuff on the back. And that's what I should have done. I put dimensionals here. You don't want to see any of this directional stuff. You don't want to see any of that. And I made it a gatefold card, and I wanted a darker background, so I used what did I use? I used Misty Moonlight, and then I just trimmed down. Now let me show you how I made the hat. Oh, on the back, I used a 1 3/4 inch circle. I think that was it. A punch. I have lots of punches. 1 3/4 of an inch and 1 1/2, and then I stamped that little bow on the back here, and just so that I could anchor my ribbon so it wouldn't completely go away. And I put it on here so that I could tie my bow over the knot in his scarf. So if you pinch it together and put it down here, that's where it's going to be. Now, what I did was I tied my bow, and then I went back and put this piece in place so that I had it in the right place, and that then doesn't come loose. All right, so that's what that is. Now, let me show you what I did to make his hat. I used a spool of ribbon, and I'm going to come all the way down on this piece of paper because I am going to start my pencil drawing right here underneath the number on this spool of ribbon, the Stampin' Up! Number. And I'm just going to put a very light pencil drawing of that semicircle there, and I'm going to come down as far as right across from this are these marks that are on here. So I came down as far as those marks are concerned. Then I moved this about a ½ inch over and about a ½ inch up. And I started another circle to go here and come down to roughly that same spot here. And so what you end up with is the top of the hat and then the piece that comes across here and makes the ball. Now, what I did was I grabbed an ink bottle and I put that ink bottle right down here at the end of that, and I just drew a little circle around that ink bottle. And none of this has to be perfect, okay? And then along this end, what I did was I cut out this much. And when it came to the ball and going around the hat, what I did was I cut the ball and I just made it completely irregular, as though it were a ball of cotton or whatever fur that he might have on the hat. And I did that until I came to this piece, and then I cut out my pencil line so I wouldn't see it, and came around. And this doesn't have to be perfect, you know. In fact, it's a little bit more fun when it's not quite so perfect. And I got this cut down to here, and I'm just going to take that off. Now, then, so I've got the beginnings of his hat, but I wanted the little sort of fur going around there. So once again, I cut this part here just completely irregularly to make the bottom part of the hat. And you can just make it any old which way you'd like. Now that one might be a little bit long. Let's see, yeah, that's quite a bit bigger. So I'm going to cut this back and try to come out roughly where that is. So again, just irregular cuts right down here to kind of come out where that ball is. Then I took my marker and I squiggled in an irregular line around here and just put down a little piece of paper here and went right along the edges here and did that same thing, made those irregular, and there's the ball. And then I did that same thing. I followed this circular line here. So you really don't need to take out your pencil marks. And then I took this and kind of went along the edge of my hat, and that can be quite a bit thicker. Just kind of draw it in along that edge, and the same thing along this bottom edge, so that you have an irregular mark here. Then did the same thing around this edge, kind of like that, and then coming back across here, I just made an irregular piece like that, and there we've got a hat. And that hat will go on the top of our Santa Claus, and what you may want to do is fit it on, either make this card a little bit longer, but again, this was directed by how big this piece was, and I cut some pieces. These are 2 inches wide, so my pieces on the side are 1 7/8 by, this was, let's see, Snowman was by 8 1/4. So I did 8 1/8 by 2 7/8, and then wrapped it in the snowflake material. And that was what dictated how big the Santa Claus could be. I mean, the snowman. So once I had that done, I took my dark Poppy Parade, and I just colored in his hat, making sure that I got, and I didn't want, this one had a little bit of brush strokes, which I wasn't very crazy about. So once I realized it was doing that, I started going in little circles, and that smoothed it out by quite a bit. And I'm not going to bore you with doing this. You can see exactly how it needs to be done to fill in. And if it's not quite right, when you attach this to your snowman here, you can cut it down a bit. And I think I did on this one. I trimmed it down a little bit, so because this was just a tiny bit big, and I wanted to make sure it fit on the card. So I did have to cut this down a little bit. And what I did was I cut up from the bottom, and you can test this before you put your lines in. But that was how I made the hat, and I thought he was so cute with the hat on. So that one is that, and then I put the 2 colors of twine together and just tied my bow in place here. And I'll show you what I do to do that is, let's see if I have them handy. I don't, but I have a little set of pliers or tweezers that clamp, and you push them to push them apart. And if you put that right on your spot, then you can use that to hold almost like you have an extra hand, and then get your bow tied, you know, around here. See if I can do this. There we go. It's a little loose, but you get the idea. And then I let his tails kind of hang down. But that is what I did to get this done, and then added this piece to hold my twine in place. And you can do this so that your bow is going the right direction. And so that was my card number 5. And like I said, I actually had quite a bit of fun making this one. And it took a little bit of experimentation to get the hat just right. And the thing is that you can do it and get it all done. And then when you glue these 2 pieces together, you cut out one whole piece, or at least half of one, to put on the back, so that when you open the card, you don't see all of this mess in the back. So that is my alternatives for this November paper pumpkin. I'm sorry it took me so long to get these put up, but lots going on. And so, I will have all of those measurements listed below the video on the show more portion of the video, and then eventually I will have it up on my blog as well. So let's see, this is now December, and so there is new host code. It's on my blog, I think. Anyway, it'll be at the end of this video, and it's a $60 shopping spree on me for the month of December, and you get yourself in the drawing by making an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net. You can get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. That's it for me, and I will be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Love y'all. Bye.